Vasiliy Lomachenko versus George Kambosos. Man, this is a fight that we were originally supposed to get maybe 18 months ago, 2 years ago, something along those lines. They were originally talking about making this fight back maybe like a week or two after Kambosos got the upset on Teofimo Lopez. He had the belts. This was going to be his first defense against Vasiliy Lomachenko. Man, think about it. Lomachenko's got all the belts, right? He goes out there, he gets upset by Teofimo. Man, Teofimo goes out there and puts on an awesome performance, snatches up all the belts just like that. He's the man. He's not giving a rematch. He's like, you know what, man, during the whole build up to this fight, Lomachenko, his team, everybody, they're talking bad about me. They're talking bad about my father. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. No rematch for the guy. Not doing it. No rematch. Okay, fair enough. You're the champ now. I guess you can play it how you want. He fights Kambosos. He loses the belts in a major upset. Boom. Just like that, man. He goes from being the man on the top of the hill going over there and losing to Kambosos. Right now, in the meantime, while that was going on, you had Lomachenko. He goes out there. He stops Nakatani. Incredibly impressive performance. He goes out there. He gets the unanimous decision in another very good performance against Richard Comey. And just like that, all of a sudden it's going to magically appear where he may be able to get the belts back. Just like that, the stars appear to be aligning where everything's going to come in his favor. Kambosos gets the upset. He's got the belts now, and he's like, absolutely, I'm looking forward to fighting Lomachenko. That's a fight that I want to have happen. And all of a sudden it looks like it's gonna come back to fruition. But then all of a sudden, man, wouldn't you know it? Global politics, geopolitics goes and rears its ugly head and throws just complete chaos into the mix. Russia invades Ukraine. Lomachenko says he's going to go back over there and serve in the armed forces. They give him a waiver saying, hey, you can go and fight for the belt. He turns it down, says, no, I'm going to be here. This is more important. Obviously, boxing and Kambosos is going to sit around and wait for him. Who knows how that's going to turn out. Devin Haney, next man up. And before you know it, we're getting Devin Haney fighting George Kambosos, and we all know how that turned out, right? In the first fight and in the second fight, it was just one thing and more of the same, man. Complete domination. 24 rounds to 0. Goes out there and pitches a shutout. 24 rounds, man. Wins all of them. Dominant performance. I could sit here and talk about it all day. He was using the jab. He was maintaining the distance. In the second fight, he got more aggressive. He worked a combination, blah, blah. You know, the timing and the distance that he was able to control and how Kambosos wasn't able to do it. We saw it. We know what happened. We saw how impressive Devin Haney looked in that performance. So then Devin Haney's got the belts. But obviously we know dude was huge for the division. He moves up. Now we're back here. All of a sudden everything comes back around. And we find ourselves in this position where once again, approximately 2 years later, we're talking about getting a fight with Lomachenko versus Kambosos. I want to say there's going to be two belts on the line, an IBF and an IBO for this one. Certainly a little bit less glamorous than all the hardware they would have been fighting for last time. But nevertheless, this is what we're looking at, right? Lomachenko, he just missed the opportunity. Some would say that he actually did not miss the opportunity. What he got was a bogus decision. But you think about it, before the belts got fractured, he got the shot at Haney. He got that shot at Haney. Now, here's one thing that I'll say. Lomachenko, he's got a lot of people in the sport that don't like him. He's got a lot of people in the sport that don't like him. He's got a lot of fans that don't like him. For whatever reason, they just don't care for the dude, right? And that's life, right? You're not gonna, everybody's not gonna be able to build a big fan base. Everybody's not gonna be able to build a lot of goodwill or a lot of love amongst people. It's like, whatever, man, who cares, right? So a lot of people don't necessarily care for the dude. That doesn't matter, but here's the reason I bring it up. After that fight with Devin Haney gets a unanimous decision, but it's super close. But a lot of people thought Lomachenko won that fight. A lot of people, even people who weren't necessarily Lomachenko fans, people who didn't necessarily pick Lomachenko to win that fight, they came out of that fight saying, hey, I think he took it. Hey, I think he won it. Hey, I think it was a bad decision. Now, nevertheless, it was a very close fight. Even if you think Devin Haney won it, what you have to say is that Lomachenko put on an awesome performance. But Devin moves up, the belts get fractured. Here we go. So he's in the press conference. And of course, everybody's asking him, what do you think's going to happen? How do you think this one's going to play out? How do you think about the fight versus Haney versus Kambosos versus Haney? Are you going to be going for undisputed? Are you going to chase all the titles? And he gave all the right answers. He's like, look, I'm just focused on this fight. Here, styles make fights. I didn't lose the fight with Haney. And we're going to see what happens when I go out here and fight Kambosos, right? All the right fights, but Of course, we know his eyes are on the prize. His eyes are going out there trying to snatch everything up. Is he going to get it done? 35, 36 years old? I don't know, man. It's going to be a tall order. It's going to be a tall order to be able to get all of these fights, just like anything else, right? Where you're trying to get all the fights, line up all the belts, while also satisfying the mandatories that you have and trying to make everything happen and all of these things. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. There's always a lot of pieces in play. There's always a lot of dominoes that have to fall and things that have to go just right when you're talking about somebody being able to make all of those fights and snatch up all the belts at one time. Now, what I will say is this. In this fight here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to state the obvious. Vasiliy Lomachenko is going to put on a dominant performance. He's going to go out there. He's going to make it look easy. I've heard people talking on YouTube saying this is going to be a victory lap. Fair enough, right? Styles make fights. It is what it is. I could sit here and talk all day, like I said before, about the way that Devin Haney went out there and dominated Kambosos, right? It is what it is, man. He went out there and just beat the brakes off dude with the jab. When he decided to get a little bit more aggressive and work in the right hand, whatever he wanted to do was there. He was able to easily avoid whatever offense, the counters, the things that Kambosos tries to do. He was able to easily avoid those. He was able to get his game off. Like I said, 24 rounds to 0, basically. That's what we're talking. Kambosos went out there, wasn't able to pick up a round in 2 fights. But those aren't the fights that we need to look at. That isn't really what's going to give us any insight into what's going to happen in this fight with Lomachenko. The one that we need to look at is the fight with Maxie Hughes. Right? And when we look at that fight with Maxie Hughes, also a southpaw, what we're looking at is a guy who completely controlled the distance. He was able to dominate the range. He was able to use his footwork and get the angles. He was able to be in when he wanted to, and he was able to get his shots off. He was able to just get out of range. He was able to land his counters. Look, one of the things that Kambosos did so well that allowed him to win that fight with Teofimo was he had the timing. He's not the fastest. He doesn't have the fastest hands. He doesn't have the fastest feet. He doesn't throw, the best combinations. He doesn't have the highest ring IQ. I mean, he's good in a lot of areas, but he's not great in any of them. What he had going for him was timing. When he can really get things going, that's when he's able to put it all together. He's able to use that big overhand right and get things working for him. Wasn't able to do that against Haney. Wasn't able to do that against Maxie Hughes, and that's why so many people thought that he lost that fight. That's why so many people thought that was a bogus decision, that it should have went to Hughes. Nevertheless, boxing is what it is. The judges saw it one way. Kambosos gets the win. But I'll tell you this much. What we saw from Maxie Hughes, I don't think is going to be anything relative to what we see to Lomachenko. Lomachenko is going to go out there and work a similar type of plan. He's going to dominate the range, dominate the distance. He's going to get the rhythm and the timing and everything going in his favor. He's going to be cleaner. He's going to be sharper than what we saw from Hughes. He's going to have more power. He's going to work those angles. I don't see what George Kambosos is going to be able to do over the course of this fight to come out with the victory. He doesn't have the power to get a knockout, dude. It's not going to happen. We have no reason to believe that all of a sudden his power is going to stop Lomachenko, right? Lomachenko, look at the shots that he's been caught with in the past. All of a sudden now we think George Kambosos is going to go out there and get the stoppage, man? No, I don't see that happening. So now what are we talking about? We're talking about him going out there and winning on points over the course of 12 rounds? Look, I'm not saying that he won't have little pockets and exchanges and spurts of success in here and there. Obviously, this is the course of a 12-round fight if it were to go to the difference. But we're talking about him being able to go out there and win 7 rounds against Lomachenko. What's he going to do? He's going to nullify the footwork like we saw Teofimo Lopez do, right? He was able to nullify Lomachenko's footwork to a degree in the rounds that he won. He didn't win every round, but in the rounds that he won, he was able to nullify the footwork by using mirrors with the angles. Right, the way Lomachenko would try to move and he would pivot and he would step back. But you got to remember, Teofimo was strong for the division, man. He had a really heavy punch. There was a lot of things that were discouraging Lomachenko from just coming in there and making it happen. That's not what we see from Kambosos, man. He's not discouraging anybody from going in there and getting aggressive and making things happen with his power. He gets off with his timing. And his timing isn't going to be anywhere near what we see from Lomachenko. So I think Lomachenko is able to go out there in this one, put on a dominant performance. I think he's going to look good when he does it. He's going to go over to Australia. He's going to snatch up this victory. He's going to get this belt. He's going to talk about what's next. He's going to turn around and press his promoter as hard as he can to see just what he can do in this last leg of his career as far as potentially snatching up all these belts. And who knows, man? Who knows? Maybe he's able to get it done. Maybe he's not. But in this one here, I think he's going to look good when he does it. So let me know what you guys think. Am I underestimating what Kambosos brings to the table? Somehow, some way, is all of a sudden is going to look like Lomachenko's game just fell off a cliff? Let me know what you guys think.